Now on KGW News. A powerful storm is caught on camera, ripping across the water, then onto land. Police hunt for burglars who smashed their way into 5 Portland stores.
It's hard to see criminals breaking into your small, locally owned business.
Be prepared for the worst construction delays we've seen in 10 years. I'll show you the big roadwork projects coming up.
New reports show the complaints to Oregon's DHS 5 years before a mother drove her family off a California cliff. Plus,
oh man, it's a nightmare.
What was behind a driver's deadly detour onto a Toronto sidewalk today?
Is it time for a change at an Oregon high school? Why students and staff could get rid of their rebel mascot. Good evening. First tonight, we're following breaking news in southeast Portland. One man has potentially life-threatening injuries after a fire at a duplex on Southeast Bush and 122nd. Here is a live look at the scene. Now, the fire is out right now. Paramedics are treating the patient. We talked to a man who lives nearby and tried to pull the victim out of the burning home.
So I ran around, seen the orange glow in the 2 windows up front, ran around to the back and busted in the door, and couldn't see nothing, so I ran back out, got the spotlight, went back in and tried to get Warren out. I almost had him, but it's thick black smoke and the heat, I couldn't breathe and just couldn't get a hold of him.
His roommate, with the help of firefighters, eventually did get the man out. We're told the man is in serious condition. Investigators are on the scene right now trying to figure out how the fire started. We'll keep you updated as we learn new information. Turning now to a look ahead to the start of road construction season. With a break from the rain and warmer temperatures, expect to see plenty of orange cones on the road. And we learned tonight, listen to this year is going to be the busiest we have seen in a decade. KGW's Christine Pitawanich has been looking into this year's big projects. And Christine, this is going to be frustrating for a lot of drivers out there.
Laurel, I think just about anyone who's sat in traffic understands the feeling. In fact, right outside of our station here on Jefferson, there's been construction for the last couple of weeks. I have sat in it along with so many other people, but today, transportation officials did tell me that drivers should be expecting more construction than they're used to this year. Soaking in the spring sun.
Great day. Spring's always hit or miss, so you got to take advantage of the beautiful days. And
road crews are taking advantage of the weather too, and this year they're going to be out in a big way.
Travelers are going to experience the worst construction delays that they've seen in the past 10 years in Portland.
That's because highways need to be maintained. Additional work will happen in 2019 and 2020 as well. All that means more backups, delays, and traffic.
Oh, wow. Okay. It's going to be a lot then, because there's normally a lot.
Drivers are already dreading it.
And that's it. It sucks. It really does. I mean,
and in Portland, the Portland Bureau of Transportation is already spearheading road projects across the city.
If I'm driving, it's just a big, huge hassle.
The yellow lines on this map show PBOT projects this year. Many of them last into fall. A PBOT spokesperson says money from the gas tax is helping to fund road fixes.
It'll be great to see it improved. Just the potholes, but also, like I said, the safety aspects as well.
Once all the projects are done, expect better markings as well as safer, smoother roads, like this one completed at Southwest Main and First. As for state highways, a huge project is coming up.
In July, we're going to see some major closures on the busiest interchange in the state of Oregon at I-84 and I-5.
Each ramp that connects I-5 to I-84 will be closed around the clock for up to 2 weeks at a time.
We can expect to see gridlock type congestion that lasts 18 hours of each 24-hour period from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Even more reason to walk or bike to work or take transit.
And that is exactly what transportation officials hope people will do. By the way, ODOT says there are about 25 projects spanning the coast to the gorge, so it's likely that drivers this summer will encounter some sort of construction. Also, a piece of advice, slow down. Last year, 5 highway workers were killed in Oregon. Back to you.
Well, that is an important reminder. We are all going to need a lot of patience. Thank you, Christine. Well, today's weather was pretty close to perfect, don't you think? The fountains were running at Salmon Street Springs, and we caught a few kiddos cooling down in the water. Listen, it's going to get even warmer, folks. Meteorologist Chris McGinnis is in the Weather Center tonight. Chris, you're talking record-breaking heat this week.
Yeah, and I think it's all but certain. I think that we're going to set at least one record tomorrow. I've got 80s, low to mid 80s in the forecast for Tuesday and Wednesdays. So if you enjoyed today, we're going to ratchet it up a little bit more tomorrow. Of course, the breezy east winds also giving us a really toasty, almost blast furnace-like feeling out there. Maybe not today, but certainly tomorrow as it gets warmer. Shower threat, that returns on Friday. More on that in the extended forecast in a bit. But check out the highs today. We hit 74 in Portland. Kelso hit 78. Salem hit 78. Newport hit 77 degrees along the central Oregon coast, and central and eastern Oregon got well into the 60s today as well. So a nice warm up after what has been a relatively cool stretch of weather statewide the last, well, at least 6 or 7 days. Right now, we have quite a temperature contrast across the region. It's 46 in Scappoose. It's 63 in downtown Portland. The reason being that there are some areas that are still feeling those gusty east winds, like case in point Salem right now down to 51. Windy, though, here in Portland. So if you're feeling the wind tonight, temperatures probably stay in the 60s or upper 50s. If you're not, probably down in the upper 40s. All of us, though, warming into the 80s. I think tomorrow more on that coming up in a few minutes. Laurel?
All right, barbecue alert, shorts alert. Thank you, Chris. Despite those warm temperatures, though, in the forecast, it is not time to cool off in the rivers just yet. The water level is still too high. Beaches that are normally there in the summer are still submerged, and the water is full of debris. But the most dangerous parts are the things you can't see, the temperature and the current. Today, the Willamette was a chilly 52 degrees. That's cold enough to shock your body, and the current can quickly sweep even strong swimmers away.
And you jump in the water to cool off, you're not going to realize how quickly you move away from that boat that's staying in one spot because it's anchored, and you probably won't be able to swim back to the boat.
Portland Fire and Rescue says the Clackamas River is even colder, about 46 degrees. They say the rivers likely won't warm up enough to swim in until June. Former President George H.W. Bush is in intensive care tonight after contracting a blood infection and being rushed to the hospital on Sunday. It happened just one day after his wife's funeral. Former First Lady Barbara Bush died last week at the age of 92. A spokesman for the Bush family said Mr. Bush was responding well to treatment, and more information will be released as necessary. The former president is 93 years old and suffers from a disease similar to Parkinson's. Candles, flowers, and messages of love line the area of Toronto tonight, where 10 people were killed earlier today by a van that jumped onto a sidewalk. 15 others were hurt. Authorities tonight are calling the crash deliberate, but they're not calling it an act of terrorism. Shocked witnesses described seeing the van going more than 40 miles an hour start driving up onto the sidewalk.
Just pandemonium broke loose, just everyone was going crazy.
He's just hitting people one by one, going down. Oh man, it's a nightmare.
The suspected driver is in custody. He's a 25-year-old from the Toronto area named Alex Manassian. The man who set a stranger on fire at a Happy Valley Denny's pleaded guilty today. 25-year-old Deshaun Swanger pleaded guilty to attempted murder, assault, and harassment. Police arrested Swanger last April, a day after he walked into the restaurant, tossed gasoline on 69-year-old Scott Ranstrom, and lit him on fire. Ranstrom survived but spent 2 months in a coma and suffered severe burns to his entire body. Swanger will be sentenced tomorrow. New details tonight about the Hart family, the Woodland, Washington family killed when mom Jennifer Hart drove their SUV off a cliff. A newly released report details calls made to Oregon's Department of Human Services 5 years ago, and the investigation into whether Jennifer and her wife Sarah were abusing their 6 children. Investigative reporter Kylie Boshi looked through those documents and found out why the state never intervened.
The state agency that investigates child abuse received 2 concerning tips about the Hart family in 2013. One anonymous caller said the kids appeared malnourished, according to the case report released on Monday. Another caller said Jennifer Hart, quote, withholds food as punishment, and they're not allowed to talk unless given permission. That caller said the mothers posed the kids in pictures to look like a happy family, but they returned to looking lifeless when the cameras are off. Reports show state investigators interviewed the 6 kids and their adopted mothers. All of them denied charges of neglect or abuse. The kids were evaluated by a doctor who said they had no concerns about the health of the kids, despite all of the children being very small. Since this investigation in 2013, Oregon DHS has changed the way it handles child neglect cases. That includes giving investigators more time to look at each case. A DHS official also said she hopes that by releasing this information, it'll lead to a discussion about a national clearinghouse to track neglect and abuse cases when families move from one state to the next. Kyle Aboshi, KGW News.
New tonight, students at South Albany High School will have to pick a new mascot. The superintendent decided tonight the school will do away with their Rebel mascot once and for all. While you're listening to this story, we want to know what you think. Vote on your KGW app or go to kgw.com/vote. Do you agree with the school's decision to change their mascot, to drop the Rebel mascot? South Albany has been known as the Rebels since the early 70s. Some of the students came from what used to be Albany Union High School, and when they came to South Albany, they said they seceded from the Union and were rebels. But more than a decade ago, the district removed its rebel flags and images of Confederate soldiers to distance itself from the negative aspects of the Confederacy. Today, they're left with just the initials of the school.
We don't really have a mascot. We have a flag with an SA in the middle of it. And so part of that then spurred the comments around we need a mascot. We need something we can be proud of.
Students now have until the end of the year to come up with a new name and a new mascot. New tonight, employees at a Portland Burgerville have voted in favor of joining a union. The employees at the restaurant at Southeast 92nd and Foster have been working toward this for the past 2 years. They say they're now the only fast food union in the country with federal recognition. The union expects to begin contract negotiations with the Vancouver-based company soon. Burgerville released a statement this afternoon saying it supports the decision to unionize and will bargain in good faith. Employees at a second Burgerville location in Gladstone have also signaled they plan to vote to unionize. Caught on camera, a thief chucks a rock through a window of Portland businesses. 5 stores were hit. We talk with the business owners when we come back. What they lost and why they say they're not too surprised by the break-ins. Plus, how do you survive both a bear and a shark attack?
The scariest part was swimming back because I was maybe 50 yards from shore and I didn't know where it was.
The man who's beat some amazing odds. And don't forget to vote in our viewer voice poll. We want to know if you agree with South Albany High's mascot change. Just click the Vote Now tab on your KGW app or go straight to kgw.com/vote. We'll reveal the results when we come back.